every year for the last, 25 years now, during the holidays, what I really like to do is book a vehicle that will serve as the family transport. I mean, nothing says family like, a big vehicle and the holidays, right? And this year, it was no different. Just to give you an idea, I mean, in the past I've booked Pilots and MDXs and Highlanders and Siennas and Pacificas and, going back 20 years, a Grand Caravan and so on and so forth. And every year I'm very happy to have booked said usually mid-size plus 3-row vehicle. And this year, no different. This year I decided to grab, for the second time in calendar year 2023, the recently revised for 2024 Volkswagen Atlas. The Volkswagen Atlas, I'm going to be absolutely honest with you. Now, if you've watched a few of the videos on Motor Illustrated over the last few years, thank you so much. You may have noticed that I have a mild penchant for the Volkswagen brand. I mean, in a nutshell, I've owned Volkswagens for about 25 years now. It's crazy to think. And I've always enjoyed the driving experience. In fact, again, if you've watched Motor Illustrated videos in the past, you know that I owned a Mark 7.5 Golf Sport Wagon, which I adore, which has a leaky water pump with about 38,500 kilometers on the clock. But never mind that. Thing is, the Atlas. I remember being at the launch event for the Atlas for the 2017 model year, which was the first model year, and I liked it. In fact, I've always liked the Atlas. But the thing is, as the years go by, right, and I reserve other mid-sized 3-row SUVs, such as the Highlander, the Pilot, the Traverse, the Durango, and so on and so forth, the strange things happen, or have happened, with the Atlas is that it always drops down the list every time. There are some definite highlights about this, but my expectations of that massive badge on the front are always an above average driving experience. Sadly, the thing is, with Volkswagen SUVs, most are very, very popular. In fact, the Atlas is the second best-selling import brand, even though it's made in the US, mid-size SUV in Canada, behind only the Toyota Highlander. So it's very popular. And obviously what I'm about to say is inconsequential, but I'm not crazy about the way it drives. I've always kind of tolerated and liked it. This is why I booked it a second time for 2 weeks, and I put a heck of a lot of mileage on it, and I'm right back to square one. Essentially, if you want to not watch the remainder of the video, it's entirely up to you, of course, it's still absolutely handsome. Although one of the new highlights of the updated design is a little obnoxious as far as I'm concerned. It's still extremely spacious. The interior now, the updates that they've done are, in short, magnificent, really. But the drive is still, I partially blame these. But anyhow, selling myself short as always. In the following video, we'll do the long walk around, and then we're going to take it for a drive to find out a little bit more, if Volkswagen did the right thing, dropping the VR6, which parts of me agree with, other parts of me disagree with, but it doesn't really matter, of course, because if you're interested, you're going to buy one anyway, because that's what Volkswagen, in fact, actually, 70% of buyers of the Atlas are new to the brand too. So obviously the recipe works. So don't watch the remainder of the movie video if you want to hear a few negative things about the Atlas. So, but if you do, please stick around. All right, so here we go. Yeah, the new front grille, really nice, but the obnoxious thing, right there. Light up, massive logo. I mean, I can see why a lot of people like it. I just think it's a bit over the top. I may have said the same thing when Volkswagen came out with like the massive chromed badges. In the rear, it's no better. Again, it's a little bit kind of nuts. I think maybe with the red it's a little bit nicer. I don't know, but look, overall the shape is unchanged. I have always loved the arched or kind of blistered front and rear fenders. Just the styling overall of this truck is very purposeful, very tall and beefy. I mean, if you look under the hood, though, I mean, I think the engine is somewhere down here, so all of this is excess real estate. Kind of funny, but hey, you know, you don't drive with the hood open, right? You drive with the hood closed. Yeah, so overall, it's still handsome, and silver really does it justice. All right, so pricing in the U.S. starts at $37,995, $52,890 for the top trim SEL something or other R line. And then there's the Peak Edition in the middle, just because it's kind of cool, at $50,878. In Canada, the Comfort line, $49,995. Okay, so hear me clearly. In my review that I did last summer when I first drove the 2024 Atlas, I surmised, I guessed that was the best deal. And it remains absolutely the best deal, because for that money, for 50 grand, 18-inch wheels, 12-inch touchscreen display, 10.25-inch digital IP, heated steering wheel, heated and cooled front seats, power tailgate, remote starts, all this LED lighting business, it's all there. There is absolutely no reason why you would spend an extra $10,000 to get this one. This is the exec line for the 21-inch wheels, the head-up display, premium leather, and a few other things like a power passenger seat. Nah, really no. By the way, the Peak Edition in Canada is $53,995, which is, well, I hope it's coming in 2024. I hope I get to drive it maybe next winter. We'll see. I think that's pretty much the end of the tour on the outside. Look, as I stated, power tailgate. I don't know, what do you think about the LEDs? It's a bit much. Maybe red is kind of cool. So power tailgate. So behind the second row, so this has the captain seat, so it's a 6-seater, 1,572 liters, I think, which is massive. And you have a little bit of space kind of in here, you know, like little storage bins. I think you can see them. Yeah, there you go. That's where I'm going to forget my new tripod. It works out beautifully. Behind the second row, I should have checked, but I think it's about 500 and change, because it's still fairly tall, and I love these bins on the side. That's brilliant. As far as the interior is concerned, it's just top notch. Okay, look at this. I mean, you got the shades, bin, right? And it's very tasteful. I mean, if you were to compare it to a Q7, you know, it's acceptable. Also included in this trim. The seats are very comfortable. They recline, slide fore and aft. Accessing the third row is actually quite easy, thanks to the pass-through here. Still sitting kind of lowish in the back there. I won't show it to you, but it can work. It's got the tri-zone climatronic. I got this. So that's actually standard too for 50 grand. Again, why spend the extra money? I don't know. Again, excellent door bins. You're going to complain the whole time, aren't you? Yes, okay. I'm going to shut you off. You know, memory seating. Okay, this is nice because it's the exec line, but you don't really need that. This is nice though, I have to admit, and it's at max, and it's just enough for my back. Comfortable seats as always. You can get an idea of the shot of the interior of the dashboard. It's really nice, but see what you see there and what you see there? That's what you get in the base model. You just slide aboard, start it up. I mean, there isn't anything crazy going on, right? So there's your little dainty Porsche-inspired shifter, which is kind of neat, I have to say. The 12-inch screen, there's always, well, always is a strong word, but there's, you know, often one step too many. See, I should be able to access that, but because cooled seats are possible, that's why it's like a two-step process. It's responsive enough. I do like the smart climate, you know, instead of thinking about, you know, because we're not used to defrost or putting the heating down at our feet, you get these options. Just kind of, I guess while we're here, these are your hard buttons. So driving assist, meh. Parking menu, cameras and such, we don't care. Drive mode, so your climate control, we were just there. So your drive modes. I'm in custom, and that's what I've set up for the entire time I've had it. I've just been enjoying it, and it's possibly partially responsible for my horrible fuel consumption. But as you can see, everything's in sport, but this is still an issue. I'll tell you a bit more about that in a few moments. Otherwise, you know, heating, volume, it needs more knobs, and I think Volkswagen is going to address that. This is actually kind of nice, I have to admit. 10.25 inch is plenty for everything you see. Steering wheel, as I said, heated. There's your button. good grip. I like the semi-flat bottom but it's just really nice. Storage, and then you get to the worst part of this vehicle, which is visibility. Because Volkswagen wants you to drive over every cement divider when you're driving around one of those big stroads or boulevards that we're used to in North America. Because it's impossible to see around this. So you have to really lean forward to see where you're going. This is a terrible blind spot. Perhaps the most horrible, largest in the segment. But otherwise, the interior is quite nice. And let's explore that drive. Alrighty then. I guess I need to address, the fuel consumption thing right away. Actually, no. We'll just talk about. Wow, I really feel like I'm sitting low. Maybe it's the hat. It's taking away the top of my head. There we go. No, not really. I just look worse. Yeah. So, VR6 is gone. We know, and it's now only the 2-liter turbo. There is a drop in HP, but there's a gain in torque, which is what's really important. So 273 from 266, and at much, much lower RPM. So frankly, whenever I take off, I'm really not helping myself as far as to explain the fuel consumption, but you can feel like the low end into the early mid range engine speeds. You can definitely feel the difference that right now I'm at 3,000 RPM, and it doesn't look like it, but it's picking up with a lot more, oomph, desire. There we go. Let's call it desire. One of the theoretical advantages to the 2-liter turbo engine is that Volkswagen says you can expect to average in combined driving 10.8 liters per 100 kilometers. There's no way. I mean, I'm averaging, if you spotted, I think it said 14.4, 14.5. I've been hovering between 14, this is as low as it's been, and 15 and a half. But yes, okay, so I'm driving it like I drive anything else, but still a 40% increase in fuel consumption numbers allows me to believe, and you can kind of tell, yes, winter is here, but winter hasn't showed up yet. In theory, on paper, on the calendar at least, the winter is here, but it's not here yet, which is kind of disconcerting. But point being that when it does get ugly outside and there is snow piled on and defrost is on max, forget about 10.8. There's no way. There is no way. One of the reasons, what I was kind of touching on, I've set everything up in custom. One of the main issues with the 2-liter, I just went back into comfort for fun, as obviously the light turned red. I know I've talked about this in the past, and I didn't feel like going through all my Volkswagen reviews over the last 5 years, but throttle response is horrible. And this is for fuel consumption, obviously. The initial input is response, and that's physical input. The response to it from the brains and the throttle is next to nil. And sometimes it's so slow, and sometimes the 8-speed automatic transmission, which otherwise is nice, won't downshift into first. So when you take off from, say, as we call them, an American stop, it stays in second, and I suspect even in third sometimes, because the Atlas sounds like it has a CVT and not an 8-speed slush box, which is kind of annoying. So hence why I've configured my custom mode and all that is in sport, and B, why I often have to go and set the transmission in sport. By default, it goes into drive even with the custom mode. But when you reselect it, like I just did now from comfort back into custom, the transmission goes into sport, and that just instant difference. Power delivery is very, very similar, but it's the transmission that just absolutely wakes up and changes everything. Now, if there was a way for Volkswagen to have this be the default mode, this would be a lot more interesting to drive. But one thing wouldn't change. Right now, the road surface is really, really nice. And with the 21-inch wheels, fully independent suspension, blah, blah, all of that, the ride is decent. Steering is, as always, very, very light. I mean, despite, setting up everything the way you'd want it, it's still very light. But as soon as the road surface, which is kind of doing right now, kind of starts to degrade, and the ride quality instantly suffers. I said this in my previous review, and I've said this in the past too. If I could get my hands on a Peak with like slightly more aggressive, thicker sidewall tires, or even a base model with the 18s, I am convinced that the ride quality would improve remarkably. But look, the bottom line, at the end of the day, as we like to say, I don't know why we say that, but we just do. The Atlas is still a really, really interesting option. But as with it in the very beginning in 2017, it's a well thought out package in search of a powertrain that fits. A 2-liter, new, revised, 269, 273, so horsepower and torque, is nice, but the efficiency, the performance, just overall, say compared to a 2.4 turbo in either a Highlander or an Ascent, or the 2.5 in the Traverse, or what you get in the CX-90, despite the CX-90 being whatever, or even the V6 in a Telluride, or even the V6 in the Pilot, they're so smooth. This one kind of, I don't know. Again, it needs another powertrain, and I'm thinking that if we've had 2 facelifts, so 17 introduction, 21 and 24, the next time around, say in 2 to 3 years from now, we're going to get a new Atlas or a new ID8, I don't know, something like that, and it's going to answer all those questions. So yeah, basically I like it, but I'm still not, it'll still keep dropping down the list no matter what. And that's it.